The lights were on when I got out of the cab. That was the first thing. Not just the porch light, all of them. Living room glowing like a showroom, kitchen light bleeding onto the driveway, even the upstairs hallway flickering like someone had walked through a moment before. It was 2:09 in the morning. My boots hit the steps too hard. I remember that sound, the crunch of gravel under tired soles, like it echoed just a little too long. Like the house heard me coming and held its breath. I was never supposed to be home that night. The original plan was simple: Denver till Saturday, work presentation, fly home next morning. But when the flight got cancelled, I didn't bother texting Megan. I thought it'd be a fun surprise. A romantic one, even. That tells you everything about where my head was. The cab peeled away behind me. I was already smiling. Luggage in one hand, key in the other, thinking how I'd sneak in, wrap my arms around her while she slept, maybe kiss her awake. I hadn't seen her in 5 days. The last call we had was clipped, her voice distant, but she said she missed me. She even ended it with, "Come back in one piece, okay?" Now I realize how hollow that sounded. The door opened before I touched it. Swung inward like someone had been waiting behind it. A man stood there. Not startled. Not even remotely confused. Just, halfway through a sentence he hadn't meant to say out loud. "Baby, you order food again." Then he saw me. The sentence broke in the middle, his mouth froze open, and the air in the doorway thickened like soup. He was tall, built, shirtless. A thin sheen of sweat on his chest and shoulders. He held a pair of socks in one hand and a bottle of water in the other. He smelled like cologne and body heat. I didn't move. Neither did he. We just stared at each other. An entire minute might have passed. My key was still hovering inches from the lock. Then her voice came, floating down the hallway behind him. Who was at the do? Megan appeared. Hair damp. Wrapped in a towel. Not our nice towel, the old one, the one she used to bleach her hair. Makeup smudged, eyeliner ghosted beneath her eyes. Legs bare. And when she saw me standing there, face blank, luggage at my feet, something happened that I still don't have words for. She didn't gasp. She didn't stumble. She didn't even look shocked. Just, still. Like I was a waiter showing up at the wrong table. "Oh," she said. Then she turned around and walked away. Back down the hall. Back into the bedroom. Just like that. The guy shifted. Cleared his throat. "I didn't know, man." I didn't answer. Couldn't. I stepped inside, feeling my shoes hit the wood floor like they didn't belong there anymore. Everything in the house smelled wrong. Not like me. Not like her perfume either. Something musty. Candles burned out. Sweat and cheap red wine. The playlist looping through the Bluetooth speaker was some slow, breathy garbage I never heard before, and she hated slow music unless she was in a certain mood. I walked into the kitchen. She was already there, pouring herself a drink. Red wine again. No glass for me. I asked her one word. "Why?" She took a sip. Didn't meet my eyes. Her voice came out soft. But not weak. Never weak. "I didn't think you'd be home yet." I waited. She said nothing else. I laughed. Out loud. A dry, cracked sound that startled even me. "That's it?" I said. That's what you've got. She looked up then. Just a glance. A flick of the eyes like I was a bill collector. What do you want me to say? The guy was gone now. I didn't even hear the door close. Didn't hear his car, or footsteps. It was like he evaporated. You've been seeing him, I said. How long? She shrugged. Megan. 3 months. 3 months. 3 months of texts answered late. 3 months of cold showers and deflected touches. 3 months of late work nights, and don't wait up, and I'm tired, I've got a deadline, stop being paranoid, Eric. 3 months of watching her eyes glaze over while I talked about my day. 3 months of being invisible in my own home. You could have said something, I said. You could have told me. She looked at me like I was missing something obvious. And what would you have done? Cried? Tried harder? My chest tightened. I took a step back. That line. That single line felt like a scalpel. Was I ever even close to enough for you? Her smile was almost a smirk. Bitter. Cruel. Close? Sure. But close doesn't count after 7 years, does it? She walked past me like I was furniture. And I let her. I stood there in the middle of my kitchen, smelling the wine and the sweat and the betrayal, trying to figure out what the hell had just walked out the door. But the worst part? It wasn't even the cheating. It was how easy it was for her. How practiced. How casual. Like she had done this already, in her head, in her heart, and I was just now catching up to the lie she'd been living comfortably for weeks. I didn't sleep. I couldn't sit, couldn't stand still, couldn't leave either. I just kept walking through the house like a stranger trying to remember where everything was. Her perfume still lingered in the hallway, not the kind she wore for me, the heavier stuff, the kind she used when she wanted attention. I went into our bedroom. It looked like a crime scene minus the blood. Sheets tangled at the bottom corner. 2 wine glasses on the nightstand. My pillow, my actual pillow, on the floor. It had a different pillowcase. Dark red. Hers. Not mine. I picked it up like it might answer something. Stared at it. Threw it across the room. In the mirror, I caught myself. I looked older. Sunken. Pale under the airport lights. My collar was half-turned from the cab ride, luggage still by the front door like I was just stopping through. I wanted to throw it outside. I wanted to scream. But nothing came out. At 3:45 a.m., I sat on the floor in the living room, lights still on. That's when she came back downstairs. Hair brushed now. Hoodie on. Not mine this time. Some crop thing with a logo I didn't recognize. Probably his. She had her phone in one hand and no shoes on. She looked like she was going out for coffee. Not like someone who had just detonated a marriage. I watched her from the floor. She didn't acknowledge me. Walked to the coat rack, grabbed her keys, and pulled on a denim jacket. Where are you going? I asked. Out. Out? She turned. Finally looked me in the face. The same face I'd kissed on our wedding day. The face I used to think I knew better than my own. You don't own me, she said. That hit harder than anything else that night. Harder than the guy at the door. Harder than the 3-month admission. It was the way she said it. Like I was pathetic for asking. Like I was the one clinging to something long dead. "I'm your husband." She rolled her eyes. Rolled her eyes. "That's just paperwork at this point, Eric." The door closed behind her like punctuation. No slamming. Just a firm, final click. I sat there until sunrise. At 6:17 a.m., I called my boss and told him I wouldn't be in. I didn't explain. He didn't ask. I think my voice told him enough. I took a shower. I didn't feel cleaner. She came back around 8. Didn't knock. Didn't sneak. Just walked in and set her bag down like she always had. I was in the kitchen, staring at my phone, thumb hovering over the "call mom" contact. She moved past me like we were roommates. Like I was a dull shadow in the corner. "You should start thinking about moving out," she said over her shoulder. "No, we need to talk. No, let's figure this out." Just a command, cold as glass. "I'm not leaving my house." "It's not just yours," she said, flipping open the fridge. Then she had the audacity to pour herself orange juice. That was when I felt it break. Whatever thread had been holding me together, respect, fear, love, confusion, it snapped. I walked over, took the glass from her hand, and poured it into the sink. Her expression? Annoyed. Like I'd bumped into her in line. "I'm not your husband anymore?" I asked. "Okay. But I'm still the man who bought this house, furnished this kitchen, paid every damn bill while you were working late and letting some stranger crawl into my bed." Her mouth opened, but I didn't let her speak. "You can lie to me. You can cheat. You can gaslight me into thinking I was imagining things, but you will not erase me." Silence. Then she smiled. Smiled. "I was wondering when you'd finally show a spine." She said it like it was a compliment. Like she was testing me this whole time and I finally passed. And for a second, just a second, I saw a flicker of something behind her eyes. Not guilt. Not regret. But something darker. Satisfaction. Like she'd won something. That moment told me everything. Megan hadn't fallen into this. She had chosen it. Crafted it. Watched me unravel in silence, and somewhere inside her, liked it. And that was the moment I knew. This wasn't about saving anything. This was about surviving the wreckage she left behind. The morning crawled. She stayed home that day. Not in the bedroom, not hiding, she wandered the house like a cat that had claimed a new territory. Phone in her hand constantly. Whispering in the hallway. One time I walked past the living room and she was giggling into the speaker like a teenager, tucked into the corner of the couch where she used to sit next to me every Sunday with her legs across mine. I didn't ask who she was talking to. I didn't need to. Around noon, I packed a duffel bag. Not because I was giving up the house. But because I couldn't keep breathing the same air as her. The walls felt like they were sweating. The silence between her footsteps made my ears ring. She didn't ask where I was going. Didn't follow me to the door. As I was tying my boots, she said, casually, "Don't forget the lawyer." I turned my head. She was in the kitchen doorway, eating an apple. Her hair was in a bun. She looked rested. Fresh. "I'll be filing Monday," she said. No sense dragging it out, right? Like she was talking about canceling cable. Like our life together had been some mildly inconvenient subscription service she was now ready to unsubscribe from. I didn't answer. I didn't trust myself to speak. I walked out. I drove for hours. No destination, just movement. I ended up outside my brother's house. Didn't tell him why I was there. Just said, "Mind if I crash here?" He opened the door, took one look at me, and nodded. That night I stared at the ceiling of his guest room for so long I started to see shapes in the cracks. A lion's face. A broken wheel. A woman with no mouth. I thought about the little things. Like the playlist I found 2 weeks ago on her Spotify, full of songs I'd never heard. Titles that made my skin itch: Backseat Symphony, Come Over Slow, Red Light Lips. I asked her about it. She said it was just background noise for working. I remembered the sudden need for privacy on her phone. The turned-over screen. The new password she forgot to mention. I remembered the smell on the couch one Thursday, cologne, not mine, and how she said she had spilled some store samples while unpacking her bag. I remembered how quickly she flipped the blame when I asked why she didn't come home until midnight. "You're always watching me," she said. "It's suffocating." It was never about guilt. It was about control. Twisting the knife and handing me the handle. I didn't cry. Not that night. Not yet. But something started inside me. Something cold. Not anger. Not sadness. Something new. Resolve. By Sunday, I had a plan. I returned to the house that afternoon. She wasn't home. Her car was gone. I walked inside and took pictures of everything: bank statements, her laptop screen, open and carelessly unlocked, even the wine-stained sheets I found in the hamper. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was building a record. I opened our joint account. She had withdrawn nearly $3,000 the week before, labeled business expenses. There was no business. She hadn't done freelance work in 2 months. I had the emails to prove it. That night, I didn't sleep either. But this time, I wasn't pacing. I was writing everything down. Dates. Names. Purchases. Password changes. Conversations. Every flag I had ignored in the name of love. Because love had nothing to do with this anymore. This was war. And Megan, whatever mask she wore, whatever softness she used to wrap around her cruelty, had already fired the first shot. Monday came like a fist through glass. I was in line at the county courthouse by 7:50 a.m. 10 minutes before the doors opened. I didn't even know what I was supposed to ask for, I just knew I had to start. A woman at the help desk pointed me to a form, then another, then gave me a tight-lipped look and said, "You'll want to talk to someone about assets. And a good attorney." By 10:30, I had a folder in my hands. Thin now, but growing by the hour. I was building my escape route. I didn't text Megan. She didn't text me. It was like we were ghosts haunting the same timeline, 2 different planes of existence. She existed on hers, with her wine glasses and late-night whispers, and I had stepped into mine. That afternoon, I called her mother. Karen answered after 2 rings. "Eric? Sweetheart?" Her voice was the same, warm, motherly, like she used to be when Megan and I first started dating. She loved me. Or at least, she used to. "Karen," I said, "I think you should hear it from me." I told her everything. Every detail. Every rotten thread I'd pulled loose. Her silence stretched long, and when she finally spoke, it wasn't disbelief. It was disappointment. In her father's house, she said softly, "We don't lie like this." I didn't need her to scold Megan for me. But something about hearing her own mother not sound surprised, that cracked something inside me. By Tuesday, Megan was texting again. Short, sharp messages. "Did you take the joint key to the safe? I need that charger from the office. We should talk soon. You're being dramatic." Dramatic. It was always the same. When things slipped out of her control, she reached for the word dramatic like it was a fire extinguisher. Set the whole house on fire, and when I screamed, she handed me a wet towel and said I was overreacting. That night, I went back to the house for the last time. I waited until I was sure she was out, her location still shared on a food delivery app. She forgot I had access. She was at Carter's, the name saved in her phone next to a little fire emoji. The same man who opened my door. I walked in slowly. Lights were off now. Quiet. The kind of quiet that feels staged. I grabbed what I came for, my documents, a few personal items she hadn't tossed into a drawer, and the photo album we built in our second year. The leather-bound one. Every picture in it was a lie now, but it was my lie, too, and I needed it to remind myself how deep the mask went. In the bedroom, I found something I wasn't looking for. A card. On her dresser. Handwritten. Torn from a notebook. I don't even think he knows. It's almost funny. I keep waiting for him to see it, but it's like he's addicted to pretending we're still real. It wasn't addressed. But I didn't need a name. I stood there holding that piece of paper while my heart crumpled like aluminum. This wasn't just betrayal. It was performance. A cruel, deliberate thing. A game played at my expense, stretched out for months, watched like a show she could turn off and on when it suited her. I didn't take the card. I left it there. Let her know I saw it. Let her wonder what I'll do with that. When I walked out of the house that night, I didn't cry. I didn't punch a wall. I didn't even look back. I locked the door behind me and dropped my key into the mailbox. A clean exit. That was the night I started sleeping again. The lawyer's office smelled like dry paper and tired furniture. One of those downtown firms squeezed between a yoga studio and a vape shop, where the carpet was beige no matter how much sun poured through the blinds. Her name was Denise Lathrop. Late 40s. No nonsense. She flipped through my folder with eyes like scalpels and nodded more than she spoke. When she was done reading, she slid the papers back toward me, interlocked her fingers, and asked, "Do you want clean or do you want fair?" I hesitated. That word, fair, suddenly felt foreign. Like it belonged in a world I hadn't lived in for months. Fair had left the building the moment a shirtless stranger opened my front door and called out to my wife. "I want real," I said. "I want truth on paper. I want it documented who she really is." Denise gave a small nod like she'd heard that one before. "Then we start with assets and narrative. I'll need everything: texts, transactions, photos, emails. If she's been lying, we make it visible." It took 3 hours to go over everything. That night, I emailed her the screenshots. The card. The receipts. Even the one where she'd booked a hotel while I was home sick in bed, claiming she had a client dinner across town. Each one felt like peeling off another layer of what I thought our marriage was. Scraping down to the bone. I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I just kept breathing. Slowly. Precisely. Like a diver at the bottom of a pool, knowing that panic wastes oxygen. By Thursday, Megan finally called. Not a text. Not a voicemail. A full-on call. I stared at the screen. Her name still read Megan Redhart, a careless leftover from a time when I meant it. I let it ring. Then I picked up. "Eric," she said. Voice syrupy. Practiced. "Can we please talk like adults?" My silence stretched. I didn't give her anything. She sighed. "I think we both lost ourselves a little." I was confused. You were distant. There it was. The shift. The co-blame. The lazy rewrite. "You cheated on me," I said, evenly. "For 3 months. Maybe more. You lied to my face and let him sleep in our bed." "I made mistakes," she said, soft, calculated. "But if you really look at the last year, you have to admit things were broken way before that. We stopped connecting." "You stopped connecting," I snapped. "I was still here. I was still trying. You stopped." She went quiet. Then, softly, "Are you going to make this ugly?" That sentence made something in me laugh. Loud, bitter, honest laughter. "You lit the house on fire and you're asking me not to make it ugly?" She didn't answer. I didn't need her to. We both knew what this was now. Control. She wanted the narrative. The image. The clean exit. She didn't care about the wreckage, only who got to tell the story first. I hung up. 15 minutes later, I got a text from her. "You know, I could make this really hard if I wanted to." I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded it to Denise. By Friday, the tone had changed again. Another message. Shorter. Colder. "My attorney will reach out." Perfect. Let them. Let someone else hear the mask crack. Let someone else stare down the same voice that once called me love and now just called me a liability. The next morning, I woke up and checked my phone. No messages. No calls. No games. Silence. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, it felt like peace. The silence didn't last. It never does, not with people like Megan. By Sunday evening, I got a message from an unknown number. No name. Just. "She's telling people you hit her." Is that true? I stared at it for a long time. Cold creeping up my spine like a slow tide. I didn't answer. Not right away. I screenshotted it and forwarded it to Denise. 10 minutes later, she replied. "Get ahead of it. Documentation is your shield now. Do not respond emotionally, respond legally." So I started writing. Everything. Every conversation. Every date. Every time I had proof I wasn't even in the house on the days Megan would later claim I lost control. I pulled phone logs. Texts. Bank statements. I even called my neighbor, Mark, who had a Ring doorbell aimed straight at our shared driveway. He remembered the night some guy was at my door while I was out of town. He sent me the footage. Clear. Dated. Time-stamped. The same guy who yelled "baby" through my front door now existed in pixels and hard drives. Truth was stacking on my side. But truth doesn't scream as loud as scandal, and Megan knew that. By Monday, the whispers had started. A mutual friend, Jessica, called me in tears. She said you'd been drinking a lot. That you scared her. That she left before it got physical. I didn't shout. I didn't even flinch. I let Jessica finish, then calmly said, "Jess, I have proof." I didn't raise my voice once. She wasn't scared, she was hosting him in our house like I didn't exist. Silence. She believed me. I could hear it in her breath. But belief is quiet. Gossip isn't. The real war had begun. The day her lawyer contacted Denise. The message was clear: Megan wanted the house. Full. No buyout. No discussion. And she wanted to leave the marriage, no fault. No fault. As if no one was to blame. As if we just grew apart, like strangers on a subway who got off at different stops. Denise laughed. Let her try. This isn't a Netflix drama, this is court. Still, the days dragged. Every hour brought another phantom punch to the gut, another memory turned sour, another echo of her voice laughing in the kitchen, another blind corner where I swore I saw her for half a second. Healing doesn't start with survival. It starts with disbelief. And I was still there, somewhere between denial and detachment. I stayed with my brother 2 more weeks. In that time, Megan sent 3 more texts. Each colder than the last. I left your jackets on the porch. Didn't want them anymore. Can you cancel the Spotify? It's still under your name. Don't make this harder than it has to be. The last one? That one made me laugh. Not bitter this time. Not empty. Just clean. Because I realized something. She had already made this harder than it ever needed to be. She chose hard. She chose destruction, lies, manipulation, and when I didn't crumble like she expected, she started swinging at my character. That's the real betrayal. Not the cheating. The rewriting of who I was. But I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was building. I opened a new account. Found a place to rent. Small, quiet, temporary, but mine. I told Denise to go full court press on the financials. I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I had proof. I had peace. And I finally had the spine Megan said I'd never grow. Let her run her mouth. Let her burn the bridge. I was already building a better one on the other side of the river. The day the court date was set, something in me shifted. Not a spark. Not a flame. A click. Like the final piece of a lock sliding into place. October 14th, 10 a.m. Division of property, dissolution of marriage, and official recognition of the lies that had hollowed out my life from the inside out. Denise said it would take 20 minutes, maybe less. 20 minutes to bury 7 years. Megan didn't text that day. Or the next. But the silence wasn't peace anymore, it was strategy. She was waiting for me to blink first. To reach out. To fold. To throw her a rope so she could climb back onto the moral high ground she'd already set on fire. I didn't blink. Instead, I went back to the house. One last time. Not to see her. To see the place. The walls. The life I thought I had. The lock had been changed. Of course it had. It hit me harder than I expected. I stood there, on the front steps, holding the same key I'd used for 7 years, the same one I dropped into that mailbox weeks ago, and suddenly, I felt it. Not anger. Not regret. Just loss. The kind that's hard to name. Not of a person, but of a future. A whole imagined world, gone. I walked around the back. The lights were on upstairs. Through the sheer curtain in what used to be our bedroom, I saw a shadow. Tall. Definitely not her. She hadn't even waited for the ink to dry. It wasn't a mistake. It was a replacement. Megan had built a parachute before she even jumped. She'd been living in the next chapter while I was still trying to save the last page. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes. Not moving. Just breathing. Then I left. I didn't look back this time. Not once. That night, I took everything I had, receipts, texts, her signature on a lease she told me didn't exist, even a voicemail she left drunk 2 weeks prior where she slurred out something like, "I probably did you a favor, you never knew how to keep me." Denise was stunned. "This isn't just good," she said. "This is court gold." I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. But the next morning, something happened I didn't expect. A text. From an old college friend. "Nate. Hey. Not trying to get in the middle of anything, but she told people you got violent. Just wanted to say I know that's not who you are. Not who you are." Those 4 words cracked something open. In a good way. Because for weeks, I had been telling myself what she did to me. Replaying it. Rewriting it. Counting every betrayal like beads on a rosary. But Nate's message reminded me, I wasn't defined by her damage. I wasn't just the guy who got cheated on. Lied to. Replaced. I was still me. The same man who loved hard. Who showed up. Who built a home from scratch and filled it with trust until someone else torched it. I didn't reply right away. I sat in silence for a while. Let the air settle. Then I typed. "Thanks, man. I needed that." Because I did. In all the chaos, in all the cold calculated silence and toxic poison Megan had tried to leave in my bloodstream, I had forgotten that people still saw me. The real me. And slowly, piece by piece, I was starting to see him again too. The morning of the hearing was bright. Cruelly bright. The kind of clear blue sky that feels like a mockery when your world is collapsing, birds chirping, air crisp, sun pouring through the windshield while you sit in your car rehearsing answers to questions you never wanted to be asked. I arrived early. Sat in the parking lot outside the courthouse for a solid 15 minutes before stepping out. My hands didn't shake, but there was a strange stillness in my chest, like my heart had moved into a deeper room and locked the door behind it. Inside, the courthouse buzzed with quiet urgency, clerks shuffling papers, lawyers in crisp suits tapping their phones, other couples with their own wrecked stories wearing the same 1,000-yard stares I'd been carrying for weeks. Then I saw her. Megan. Standing at the end of the hall in black heels and a gray dress I'd never seen before. Her hair straightened. Jewelry minimal. A lawyer beside her, some thin guy with a shiny watch and a permanent smirk. She didn't look at me. Not once. But she knew I was there. You could see it in the way she stood straighter when I walked past. Her chin lifted slightly. That little performance tick she always had when she wanted to look like she was winning. Denise met me outside the chamber room, calm and composed as always. Just follow my lead, she said. No sudden moves. No emotion. You already won, this is just the paperwork. We walked in. It was quick. Quicker than I ever thought it could be. 2 chairs. A clerk. A judge who'd clearly heard stories like ours more times than his soul could handle. He asked if the separation was mutual. Megan's lawyer answered yes. Denise interjected. We have documentation contesting that. He nodded. But you are both agreeing to divorce? We both said yes. That word fell out of my mouth like a stone. Then came the financials. Denise laid it out like clockwork, calmly, firmly, precisely. Megan's face twitched when the hotel receipts came up. Even more when the lease agreement surfaced, showing she'd moved assets before ever telling me she was unhappy. But she didn't speak. Not once. The judge looked over the papers for a long moment, then said the words that sealed it. Marriage dissolved, property divided as agreed. Final. That was it. 7 years. Signed away in under 20. Megan stood up fast. Walked out without a backward glance. Her lawyer trailing behind. I stayed in my seat. Denise put her hand on my shoulder. You did good, she said. You kept your dignity. I nodded. Thanked her. Walked outside. The air was warm now. Sun higher. The sky still stupidly perfect. I got in my car. Closed the door. Let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. And then, I cried. Not the loud, gasping sobs you see in movies. But the quiet kind. The kind that leaks out in silence and leaves salt on your lips. It wasn't just grief. It was relief. Exhaustion. Surrender. It was the sound of chains falling off. For the first time since this began, I didn't feel like I was choking. I felt free. Not healed. Not yet. But free. The strange thing about freedom is how empty it feels at first. People think it's instant clarity, a breath of fresh air, sunlight after a storm. But no. At least not for me. After the divorce was finalized, I didn't feel light. I felt lost. Not because I wanted her back, that ship hadn't just sailed, it had sunk, but because so much of my life had been wrapped around the idea of us. Even when she was cheating. Even when I knew. That idea still had to die. And deaths, even metaphorical ones, don't happen clean. I moved into my new place a few days later. Small apartment. 3rd floor. Quiet neighbors. Cheap but functional. White walls, second-hand furniture, the smell of fresh paint and old carpet. No memories in it yet. No history. Just possibility. That was its best feature. I slept on the floor the first night. No bed yet. Just a folded blanket and a box for a pillow. But I slept. Solid. No dreams. No waking up in a sweat wondering if I'd heard a door close. In the days that followed, I started rebuilding. Little things. Grocery shopping. Setting up the Wi-Fi. Hanging a coat on a hook I screwed into the wall myself. I bought a new coffee mug. Just one. It felt weird. But good. Honest. I called my dad for the first time in months. He answered with a rough voice. Hey, kid. Hey, I said. I'm out. He paused. Out? She's gone. It's done. Divorce went through. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I'm sorry it happened like this. But I'm proud of how you handled it. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear that. Friends started coming back around. The ones who had pulled back during the drama, not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know how to care without making it worse. Jessica sent me a book on grief and healing. Nate dropped by with beer and silence. We didn't talk about her. We just watched a game and existed. It was enough. Then, about 2 weeks after the court date, Megan texted me again. Hey. Just wanted to see how you're doing. Hope you're okay. I stared at it for 5 full minutes. Not out of anger. Not out of hope. Just disbelief. She had scorched the earth. Lit matches in both hands. Walked away from everything with a smirk and heels, and now she wanted to check in? I didn't answer. Not because I was bitter. But because there was nothing left to say. Some people don't deserve closure. Some people use checking in as a fishing line, to see if they still have control, if the hook is still in. Mine wasn't. I deleted the message. Blocked the number. That night, I sat on my balcony. Cold drink in hand. Looking out over a parking lot full of strangers and silence. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt okay. Not good. Not healed. But okay. And sometimes, that's where real healing begins. There's a moment after everything collapses where you expect something dramatic to happen, a revelation, a phoenix rising, some grand epiphany that ties it all together. But real life doesn't work like that. The truth is, sometimes the most powerful part of healing is nothing happening. No explosions. No confrontations. No texts begging for forgiveness. Just silence. And the realization that you're still standing in it. It's been 3 months since the divorce was finalized. I've stopped keeping count of the days. My apartment's different now, not new, not flashy, but mine. There's a bookshelf I built myself. A record player I picked up from a flea market. A framed photo of my dad and me fishing back when I was 13, before life got complicated. I go to the gym now. I sleep better. I cook dinner for one, and somehow, it doesn't feel sad anymore. It feels like presence. Like being here. Megan? I haven't heard from her since that last text. Friends tell me she's still with him, the door guy, the replacement, the warm body she used to keep her ego from getting cold. I don't ask. I don't care. I'm done living inside a story someone else is writing. Looking back now, it's surreal how many signs I ignored. How many red flags I folded into origami and called compromise. How many times I chose peace over truth. How long I kept trying to earn the love that should have been given freely. I know better now. I know what manipulation sounds like when it's dressed as concern. I know what disrespect looks like when it smiles. I know what betrayal feels like when it comes slowly, like a tide, not a wave. And I know that love, real love, doesn't make you beg for it. So here's my advice, if you're reading this and seeing pieces of yourself in my story. Believe the silence. Believe the shift in tone. Believe the way they stop looking at you, not because they're distracted, but because they've already moved on emotionally, and just haven't told you yet. And when the truth finally breaks through the lies, Don't argue with it. Don't chase explanations from someone who already showed you who they are. Just walk. Even if your knees shake. Even if your hands won't stop trembling. Even if it feels like everything is ending, it isn't. Something else is beginning. Something harder. Something lonelier. Something worth it. You won't recognize yourself at first. But one day, in a quiet room, you'll sit down and realize. You're no longer waiting for an apology. You're no longer afraid to sleep alone. You're no longer hers. You're yours again. And that is everything.